Alexander. They were trying to trade him, and there wasn't much of a market. And I've always had this feeling like that if the Green Bay Packers are moving off somebody, including an older Aaron Rodgers, they're almost always right. They draft, they evaluate out of the building and in the building as well as any team in this league for 30 years. I really think Green Bay is good at it. So if you look at the highest paid corners in the NFL, I think it's the most overrated position in football for about 8 different reasons. But if you look at the highest paid corners in the NFL, not a lot of guys on winning teams. J.C. Horn, Carolina. Jalen Ramsey signed a big deal by Miami. They can't get him out of the building fast enough now. They're trying to trade him. Jair Alexander, A.J. Terrell with Atlanta, Denzel Ward, Cleveland. Not a lot of guys producing W's. Derek Stingley's great, but Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud are that team. The New York Giants have had great corners for like a decade. It has zero impact. One of the reasons is you can't put your hands on receivers anymore. It limits what you can do. Also, teams play zone 85, 90% of the time. And the NFL is so offensively friendly. If you go 3 wide plus a pass-catching tight end, what is one corner going to do? So, and I've been on this for years. Also, 90 to 95% of young quarterbacks are mobile. I mean, Jared Goff and Matt Stafford are like outliers that are pure pocket guys. Even C.J. Stroud can move. For Jaden Daniels, if you go to man-to-man coverage with great corners, that is just a green light to take off and run because you're turning your back to the quarterback. So I don't get it. Last 9 years in a row, last 9 years in succession, the NFL has had more motion than the previous year. Everybody's moving. Wide receivers now get a running start. You can't put your hands on anybody. And you just start looking at the highest paid corners. Teams sign corners to big deals like the Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey. They want to get out of it a year later. So there's 5 positions in this league that I want A+, and I'll pay for. Quarterback, head coach, left tackle, interior or exterior pass rusher, and an offensive weapon or 2. I also think center is wildly underrated. I think Chicago, great center. Kansas City, great center. Philadelphia, great center. Green Bay, good center. Why? Generally speaking, I think Chicago's getting Drew Dahlman from Atlanta was really smart. They call the audibles. Young quarterbacks especially don't want people around their feet. So if Jair Alexander, if the Packers are off somebody, they're almost always right. They evaluate in and out of their building as well as anybody. J-Mac with the news.
No.
Yeah. Let's talk about this because I think there's a lot what Colin is saying is right, but the biggest thing is that you got to trust how the Packers are run. There's nothing that gives you the idea that a team like the Packers is a poorly run franchise or they're kind of all over the place or you don't get their decisions. Like, to me, this type of move makes a lot of sense. I mean, just look at this alone. 4 games, 16, pretty good. 7. Then you're going to bring in someone who obviously is having, I don't want to say behavioral issues, but just issues with the team, right? Like issues with the team in terms of kind of the back and forth, not necessarily like a good relationship. However you want to define that's up to you. And you want more money. It's like, so you're not really playing. You've been injured and banged up. You want more money than we're willing to give you. And it's not like we can say, well, you're just an awesome leader. We would absolutely love to have you all part of this. You know, like you're helping contribute to build to our culture. I mean, you're getting older. You're getting increasingly more banged up. It's like, what are we supposed to do with that? And I understand what Colin is saying in terms of like what you want in terms of like head coach, quarterback, and all of this. And I definitely think that there's a lot of truth to what he's saying. I go back and forth because like 1 minute we're gonna say, oh, you know, secondary doesn't matter, and then there's gonna be a Super Bowl team that has like the best safeties and corners in the NFL history, and they're gonna dominate and win all these games, and everyone's gonna be like, see, that's what you need in the modern day NFL. You need to have great cornerbacks, and it's just like, okay, you know, and it's always changing. I mean, it really is. Like right now, maybe you can make the argument that corners are what people thought running backs were a couple of years, where it's like, you don't really want to pay them. Their best years are in the beginning of their career. Then they start getting more banged up and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay. But like when Colin did this chart before, let me get to it. Well, no, not this one. Well, yeah, I guess this one works as well. But he talks about highest corners, and you can obviously see, okay, Texans didn't win a Super Bowl. Panthers didn't win a Super Bowl. Dolphins no Super Bowl, etc., etc., etc. But he's made the same chart with wide receivers as well. So it's just like you can always find positions, and you could probably do it, especially Saquon Barkley and whatnot. But you could have done that before with running backs. It's like the team that has the most rushing yards. I forget what the exact stat is, but it's something like the team that has the running back who has like the most rushing yards in the NFL, like pretty much like never wins the Super Bowl or something. It's something like that. I think they were even trying to use that against the Philadelphia Eagles before. And, the whole idea is that you shouldn't pay running backs, and you go through the history of all the times you pay a running back, then, the team doesn't win. And you do that with wide receivers. And, hey, how many how great is Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson? Are they going to Super Bowl? Like, no. So, like, the reality is that you can kind of do that with, like, every team and every position. Heck, I mean, even with the quarterbacks, who we obviously know are important. I mean, look. Colin right here, quarterback, head coach, left tackle, pass rusher, offensive weapon. Quarterback, the highest paid quarterbacks, they're not necessarily going to the Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl. Justin Herbert, high paid quarterback, no Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson, high paid quarterback, no Super Bowl. Dak Prescott, no Super Bowl. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so it's the moral of the story is you don't really want to pay anyone a lot of money. I think at the end of the day, it's like, you probably want, like, these are made up numbers, man, but, like, I don't know, 4 or 5, like, special players, ideally quarterback, ideally offensive weapon, left tackle, etc., etc. And then everyone else, you're just trying to fill in with, like, really good to great players. If you can round out the roster with just Bs, those other great players elevate everyone else, and they can start to have more moments where they can play like A's, even though maybe they're not. Like, you can make the argument that you're better off having like 4 elite players and the rest Bs than having like 8 elite players and the rest C's. Like, it's you can make that argument, but again, it's always changing. It really is. Every time I feel like I have the NFL figured out, something else changes. I mean, think about how convinced everyone was with running backs kind of like not being that important, and then it's like you see what the Ravens and the Eagles were able to do with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, and even before that with the 49ers with Christian McCaffrey, and you're like, oh, okay, this seems to be important. So, but I just trust the Packers here, and I think just on paper it makes a lot of sense. The Packers are looking to build something special for the foreseeable future. They're trying to build an actual foundation. I think if they were like right there, ready to win a Super Bowl, you could make the argument that you want to try to do your best to keep someone like a Jair Alexander. I can see that. But since I think that the Packers are still technically in this building process, they have an incredibly young team. They're trying to round out their roster. They need guys that can stay healthy. I mean, it's so hard to build a culture and build a foundation when you keep having guys get banged up, especially when they're young guys. But even if they're old, because you have nothing to build off of, you constantly got guys going in and out of the lineup, and it's just like, what do we do here? And when you have guys that are going in and out of the lineup, the rest of the rest of the team, like, they don't know who they're looking at. They don't know who that common voice is. Like, it just becomes kind of a mess if you get inconsistent gameplay, and you get inconsistent preparation, quite frankly, and you get inconsistent like reactions to adversity, like in the game, also in game and off the field. And I think that's what we saw with the Packers, right? I mean, we had players going in and out of the lineup. You had injuries, obviously Jordan Love especially. And we saw a lot of inconsistent play. It was a young team. It's like, where's the foundation? Where's the core? Look at a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown, Devontae, Dallas Goedert. They can go down. Jalen Hurts has been there for a while. Lane Johnson has been there for a while. Like, you have key pieces. You have true culture creator guys that have been there now, some of them for an incredibly long time, that allows you to kind of endure some of that. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They were able to have a lot of these players go down, but they obviously have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Even though Travis Kelce wasn't what he once was, the team still knows who to look to in these moments. They still know in moments of adversity what needs to be done. And that is one of the biggest issues, that when you are a young, developing, growing team, it would have been very hard for the Chiefs to build this foundation if Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill were like getting injured and going in and out of the lineup. Be very hard. Very, very hard. It would have been very hard for the Eagles, who just obviously won the Super Bowl, when they brought in like a Cooper DeJean and a Mitchell. If they had their other key defense, like even someone like a CJ Gardner-Johnson or Darius Slay, if those guys were just gone for 8 games, big chunks, like the defense is at risk of kind of being like, where do we go here? What players can the coach lean on? So it's just it culminates in some of this where it's like, all right, we need to find our core. We need to round out our foundation. We either believe we have that, and so now we definitely don't need any of this, and we want to keep ourselves, free of a personality that we think is kind of detrimental, as well as tying up money to a player that we don't think we're even going to get the production from. Not to mention, will also then back us in a little bit of a corner to make other moves moving forward. And so it just makes a lot of sense. I think someone like Alexander can help a team. Like, ironically, bringing up a team like the Eagles or something, I think. And again, I'm not saying like necessarily like on paper they would need him, but I just mean like a team that's already kind of really situated, a team that kind of has like a foundation here. But if you're in the process of building a team, unless Jair Alexander was known as just being that guy in the locker room where you're like, man, this guy is just there for you. He is going to help you grow, etc. I mean, Darius Slay, actually, to keep up with that example, bringing in Cooper DeJean and Mitchell, like he was like, they're my children. He referred to them as his children, like that. He was so all in on building that culture and taking care of the guys. Like that is what you need if you're going to deal with older players, especially older defensive players. The reality is, man, they just need to be great people. Because I really do agree with the philosophy of you want younger players on defense. They get banged up so much more regularly. Younger guys bounce back more quickly. When you're older and you're getting banged up, it lingers a lot more, and the chances of speak of Darius Slay. I keep going with the same team, but may as well keep it consistent. I mean, like, always getting banged up, always getting. And granted, at this point, he's like in his 30s or something, and it's like, yeah, gotta move on from you. It's just what happens. So I don't really think this, honestly, I wanted to say this at the very beginning because it was funny kind of how this take unfolded, where it was kind of like the Packers need to explain themselves as to why they were moving on from him, and it's just like, not at all. Like, I think it makes sense. They didn't let things get weird. They weren't trying too hard to be like, we're going to keep him and we're going to try to like make this work, or we're going to try to trade him. They're like, no, let's just move on. Let's just move on so we can continue to step forward. And not enough teams do that, quite frankly. Not enough teams do that, and they pay the consequences for it. The Green Bay Packers will not pay the consequences for it, and will only reap the benefits of it. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Green Bay Packers moving on from All-Pro Jair Alexander? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.